In this video, I'm going to talk about why multiplayer video games suck, why tabletop games are better, and the social contract. Now I know what you're saying. You're saying, but Uncle Adam, this is a tabletop wargaming channel, not a video gaming channel. And I agree. I'm going to bring it back around. Just hang on. So a couple of weeks ago, I was talking to some friends of mine. They're a couple. They live around the block. And they like to play this game online, and they were talking to me about it. And it's called Rust by Face Punch Studios, which, now that I hear the name, maybe that should have been an indicator. Anyway, so basically the game is, they explained it to me kind of thusly. They said it's like Minecraft, but not so cartoony. It looks more like a normal first-person type shooter. And you build things, and you mine for rock, and you chop down trees, and you make things, and there's blueprints, and you'll learn how to make new things, and so there's almost like research to some degree. There's a lot of things going on in the game, and this just the width and the depth of the crafting system in the game is amazing. You can build houses, you can build castles, you can do all kinds of crazy stuff. So I was like, okay, that sounds kind of interesting. It was like 20 bucks on Steam, so I grabbed it and I started playing it. There are no instructions, none whatsoever. You start out as a naked, hairless man. No, there's no women in the game now I can think of it. It's just men of differing colors, you know, ethnicities, I guess. But you're naked and hairless, and you have a rock and a torch, and that's it. You wake up on the beach. So, like I said, since I knew it was kind of Minecrafty, I took said rock and I went over to a tree and I hit the tree a bunch, and then some wood came off, and then I had some wood in my inventory. And I found a rock like in the ground, and I hit the rock, and I turned, you know, now I've got some stone, some metal ore, some sulfur ore. I don't know what any of these things do, but there's a crafting screen. So now I know that if I take X amount of rock and X amount of wood, I can make a hatchet. And now I can chop down trees quicker. And I can make a pickaxe, so I can pickaxe through rocks quicker. If I find some hemp plants on the ground, I can use those for cloth, and then I can make a bow. And then I can use some rock and some wood to make some arrows. And so now I can hunt boars and deer and things like that. Boars? Boar? I don't know. Anyway. And then from them you can get some leather. Sometimes you get chicken. I don't know why when you kill a boar, sometimes you get chicken meat, but you do. Anyway, sometimes you get cloth. Maybe the boar was wearing pants. But anyway, you're collecting these resources. You're learning new stuff, and you're taking it all. And I figured out now, okay, these metal ore bits, I have to cook them somehow to make metal fragments, because a lot of these things that I'm seeing in my list of different things I can craft require metal fragments. So I go over and I'm standing in front of a furnace that I found just out on the side of the road somewhere, and I'm throwing wood in there and I'm throwing metal fragments in there, and I go over to get more wood, and I'm chopping away in a tree that's a couple steps away, pantsless as the day is long, just sitting there chopping wood. I have nothing else on me other than an axe and no pants. And a guy comes up and shotguns me in the back of the head. Now this is after a couple of hours, literally at least 2, if not 3 hours of me figuring things out, traveling around, seeing the sights, figuring out how I can start to build a house, what kind of things I might need, and trying to actually smelt ore to make metal fragments so I can start to build a knife or anything else that's even vaguely useful. And a guy with a shotgun, he had armor on, he had a hat, he had pants, shotguns me in the back of my head and steals my metal ore. And I think also my hatchet. Yeah. And then I woke up on a beach, naked and hairless, with a rock and a torch. Now this happened last week, Thursday. I had come here to the studio, and I had filmed the Golem Arcana episode, which went live last week, Friday. Then I went home, and before editing, I played a bit of Rust. This is when this happened. I was incensed, to say the least. I was so angry, and I'm like, I'm not doing the Golem Arcana video this week. I'm doing a video about how video games suck. But I thought better of it, and I thought I would give it some time. So this is, after a week, and I've played more Rust since then, been shotgunned in the head a couple more times while trying to, chop down a tree with no pants on. So it's not like it changed. It's not like it's a random occurrence. It's basically standard in the game of Rust. They put all of this time into all the crafting and all the cool stuff and building castles and doing all this stuff, but really it's mostly a game about shooting newbies in the back of the head and taking their stuff because you think it's funny. And that's because there's no social contract. See, I told you I was going to bring it back around to wargaming. There's no social contract in multiplayer video games. Now, you've probably heard the term social contract quite a bit lately in the last couple of years when relating to tabletop wargaming. If you've not, I will explain it quickly. The social contract in tabletop wargaming is that when we are going to play a tabletop wargame, we are right there by each other. And we're going to sit down and say, okay, well, what kind of game would you like to play? Well, I would like to play War Machine. Oh, well, I also would like to play War Machine. I have my War Machine army. Well, I would like to play a 50-point game. I only brought 35 points. Okay, well, let's play a 35-point game. So there's negotiation, there's communication, and there's also repercussion and comeuppance. Because if you start to play a game with somebody you've never played before, and they use the worst, cheesiest net list they could find on the internet to crush you when you guys were just playing a casual game, or if they constantly call you on, and I think that was more than 6 inches. I think that was 6.5. I'm pretty sure. Or they constantly roll their dice behind pieces of terrain and like, oh, I got a 6, and they pick it up. That kind of stuff. You can call them out on it. Another thing you can do, talking about repercussions, is you can never play them again. There are plenty of people at my local shop, a couple that I can think of off the top of my head, who just don't get games in anymore because no one wants to play with them because of the repercussions of the social contract. There's no social contract in online video games. There's none. There are rules that are part of the physics engine of the game. You can't shoot through walls frequently. You can't, fly unless the game says you can fly. You can't. There's a lot of things you can and can't do. Video games are all about rules, but they're built into the code of the game. But there are plenty of games out there. Normal team play games where the whole point is to shoot the other team. Okay, we're not talking about like, no, I was trying to craft something in Call of Duty and this guy shot me. The point of Call of Duty is to shoot the people on the other team. Everyone knows that. That's part of the understanding of that particular game. But in Call of Duty, usually there's a setting that makes it so you can't team kill people. Most online shooter type games have settings so that you can't kill people on your own team. Because if they don't make that setting, people will kill people on their own team because they think it's funny. There's no I in team, but there is an F and a U. So this is one of the reasons why video games suck, because there is no social contract. There's no comeuppance. When you sit down to play a tabletop war game, you sit down with the understanding that we have to be kind of on the same page. We have to understand what's going to be happening. And if somebody breaks that contract, they play in a way you don't like, they do whatever the deal is, you don't have to play them ever again. You don't have to. You can just do what you go to play with other people. You can come into the shop and they'd be like, hey, you want to play another game of War Machine? And you can be like, no, I do not want to play a game with you. I will play with anybody else in the shop, but I will not play another game with you. And that's the comeuppance. That's the repercussions of breaking the social contract. In video games, games like Rust specifically, in my mind, are designed to show me, the player, how people are kind of terrible when you give them anonymity and the ability to mess with other players. When you give them that, and everybody knows this from the internet, anyone who's played a game online has heard people who say horrible, horrible things. Even if it's a game where they can't kill other people, they just say horrible things if there's some sort of team chat, just because they have the anonymity and there's no proximity. No one can go over to them and smack them in the back of the head and go, why don't you shut up, All of this came true after playing Rust again. I haven't really played, I used to play tons and tons of video games. I ran a LAN party for years back in the late 90s, early 2000s. We started out with 5 people. Sometime in the early 2000s, we got up to about 96 attendees, all at one big giant LAN party. We had to rent a hall and get tables and all this stuff. So I've been doing it for a while. I haven't done it in a long time because I've been playing tabletop war games because I enjoy the craft of it and I enjoy all that stuff. What I don't enjoy is someone just coming along and shooting me while I'm trying to cut down a tree with no pants.